Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ala ma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this session of Maxims of Fiqh. Today, inshallah, we will continue the discussions of the general maxims that go and they fall under the grand maxim of certainty is not to be removed by doubt. Now, one of the general maxims is that the women, by default, they are forbidden. This would be an exception of the previous maxim. If we say by default things are halal, here this is an exception. And according to Abu Hanifa rahimahullah, when we say by default things are haram, this goes in harmony with that maxim. Al-aslu fil abda' at-tahrim. By default women are haram. That means if you doubt whether you are allowed to marry this woman or no, then you cannot marry her. Why? Because we go back to the default. That's what we are certain of, that you cannot marry her. In principle, women are allowed only in two ways. One of them is gone, the right hand possession, and one of them is still there, which is marriage. That's all. Women are not allowed without marriage. Also, based on this maxim, we have some practical examples in our day-to-day issues. One of them is that if a man had 3 wives and he divorced one of them, he did not know which one he divorced. He is certain that he divorced one of them. What should he do? One of them is definitely forbidden, but he is not sure which one. According to the majority of scholars, all of them become haram. All of them. Why? Because by default, women are haram. And that's what we are certain of. There is a probability that this one is not the one that is haram, or that one. 2 to 1 probability, but there is no certainty. So the majority of scholars actually, they said that they are all haram. Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, in one of his opinions, he said he draws lots, and which one he chooses, then she becomes haram, and the rest they are halal. How? He says due to necessity, it's too harsh to tell him all of them are haram. Due to necessity, this lot becomes like a witness. Just like if someone heard him saying, you divorced this one, this lot becomes a witness for you. That is the example of this maxim. Now we move to the next maxim, which is the indication does not contradict the saying, or the connotation is disregarded if there is a saying. Which one is stronger? What you indicate or what you say? The saying is stronger. So we apply the saying and we neglect the indication. So there is no contradiction. We contradict 2 strong things in the same level. But if one thing is stronger, then there is no contradiction. We take that. And the saying takes precedence. Where do we implement this maxim? We implement it when there are rejections and acceptance. Like if someone did not say anything, but he indicated, he opened the door of his house, which means that you are welcome to come. That's an indication. But if he opened the door and he said, nobody is allowed to come, that means we take the saying, because the saying is stronger than the indication, which is the opening of the door. Now, many scholars said, anyone who builds a masjid and he opens its door, he doesn't need to tell the people, come, I am allowing you to pray. Why? Because there is an indication. He built the masjid, he opened the door, so people are welcome to come and pray. Now, an example for this maxim is when someone allows his friend to come to his house. You are a friend of someone and you visited him in the house and he was expecting you. You sat down and you saw him putting on the table cups of juice. What is the indication here? The indication is that you are welcome to drink. Otherwise, he would have not put them here. He was expecting you to come and you are his friend. He put them even before you come. Then he went inside. That means go ahead and drink. But if you came and you found those cups and he came and he told you, I am preparing something for you, those are not for you. That's saying, which is stronger. Then he left. if you go and drink and you spill or you drop the cup and you break it, you are liable. Why? Because you were not permitted. While in the other case, when he allowed you to drink and you drank and then you dropped it by mistake, you're not liable for this. Because in Islam, the permissibility of doing the act relieves you from the consequence of that act. The permissibility to do the act relieves you from the responsibility. So if he came and he told you, why you broke this cup? Why did you drink from it? I did not tell you. He cannot say that because he indicated to you. It is too late now. When you broke the cup, he told you. Because if you did not break the cup, most likely he would not have told you. That is the effect of this maxim. Another example. Now, the husband is supposed to pay the dower to his wife. When the husband and wife, they agree to the contract and the terms of the marriage contract, one of them is the dower. And the dower is to be paid to the woman. That's her right, not the right of her family. That's her money. But if he wanted to pay the woman, they were sitting and he said, this is the dower, and her father took the money and she was silent. She did not say anything. That's an indication that she is okay with her father taking the money. If she came later and she said, I want my money, the husband told her, I gave it to your father and you were silent, and she said, no, I did not agree to that, she cannot say this. If they go to the judge will not ask the husband to pay back the dower. Why? Because her silence was an indication that she was okay. On the other hand, we have another maxim which says, لا ينسب إلى ساكت قول. There is no attribution to the one who is silent. The silent, we don't attribute any saying to him. Another part of this maxim is that silence in the time of speech is speech. السكوت في معرض الكلام بيان. Silence in the time of speech, it is speech. What do we mean by that? Now, if there is no indication to what's your opinion, what do you want, whether this way or that way, then there is nothing can be attributed to it. But if there is a need for you to say something and you did not say anything, then that means you are approving of what's going on. Now, for the first example, the silent, nothing is attributed to him. We have the deflowered woman, the woman who was married before and then she was divorced. In Islam, she has to consent to the marriage by her approval. Her approval is not by silence only. She has to say, I agree. That is the sunnah. So when someone comes and proposes to a woman and she is silent, we cannot say that she agreed. Unlike the virgin, because in the case of the virgin, her silence is speech. On the other hand also, if someone was destroying the car of his neighbor was standing, in principle, are you allowed to destroy the property of others? No, you're not allowed. So now your neighbor is silent. That does not mean he's approving of what you're doing. He has to indicate by saying. Only the silence itself is not sufficient here in this case. Why? Because by default, you are prohibited from destroying the property of your neighbor or from anyone else. On the other hand, in Islam, when someone recites to a sheikh, usually the sheikh will not be silent if there is something wrong. So if you are reciting, and the sheikh is silent, that's an indication of his approval, that it is okay. Unless he stops you, you go ahead and continue. The Prophet ﷺ would not be quiet, would not be silent if there is something wrong. So when he is asked about something and he does not say anything, that means go ahead. The example for this would be when Khalid radiallahu anh ate from the lizard and the Prophet ﷺ did not say anything. At the beginning, this was permissible. Then he was asked, is it haram? And he said, no, it is not in my land. So that's now a speech. But at the beginning, it was an indication that is just like the speech, because the Prophet ﷺ would not approve of anything that is haram. Now, another maxim that falls under the grand maxim is that لا عبرة بالتوهم. Illusion does not count. Which means the religious rulings, we cannot base them on illusion. So if you want to pray, if you wanted to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to base that on certainty or on probability, strong possibility. An example for this would be the specification of the direction of the Qibla. Choosing a direction of the Qibla. You are a traveler, you are in a place where you don't know the Qibla. So you just decided this is the Qibla and you went ahead and you prayed. It's not accepted from you. Why? What made you pray this way? Maybe that's the direction of the Qibla, but maybe no also. There are 3 other directions. So actually this is only 25% chance that you're right. That is tawahhum, that is illusion. That's why this is not accepted. But on the other hand, if you try and you ask and you are told that this is the direction and you pray, then you did your best, you prayed, then after that it appeared that it was wrong, you're not liable for anything. That is the difference. You make the ijtihad, you try your best, you exert your effort, and then you pray, it is accepted. But on the other hand, if you just base your ibadah on nothing, illusion, that is illusion. And again, many people think, oh, I thought this is right. Thinking only is not enough. You have to base that on strong foundation. Another example for the illusion where it does not count, if there are creditors, someone passed away and he owed money to people. 2 of the creditors came and they asked the judge to divide the money. The judge has to divide the money immediately. There are 2 creditors, which means that the man who is deceased who owed this money, maybe he owed some people else because there are 2 now. Maybe there is a 3rd person or a 4th person. The judge has this possibility. Can he delay the division due to the possibility that there might be another creditor? No, he cannot. He has to distribute the money immediately. Unless there is a certainty that there is another creditor that is coming, he should distribute the money immediately. The last maxim is that the wrong assumption does not count. The wrong assumption does not count. Now, when you have a probability, strong probability, that means you should follow that. But if it appeared to be wrong, then it does not count. Why? In general, if it is not wrong, that's what you should do. That's what you should do. Because it is strong probability. But if it appeared to be wrong, then you cannot count on it. You have to follow what is certain. But if there is nothing contradicting it, then you can go ahead. All this falls under the meaning of the grand maxim that certainty is not to be removed by doubt. I will conclude here, inshallah, and I'll continue next session with the next grand maxim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.